My name is Harrison Wheeler, and this is Technically Speaking. Hey everybody, my name is Harrison Wheeler, and welcome to another episode of Technically Speaking. Today, my guest is Monique Wray, who is an amazing illustrator and motion designer. We're excited to have a talk and have you on the show today. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for
How are
having me.
things going
I
for you?
appreciate it.
Like you got some really nice vibes for people that are tuned in on the audio. You've got a nice plant in the background. You got some
Yeah.
good lighting going through. Like, what are the vibes today? Let us know what's going on.
Just life-wise and career-wise over the last 2 years, just had beautiful opportunities and have been have been seeing growth in my practice that I couldn't have expected. There's that, right?
Amazing. Well, we love to celebrate. We love to celebrate the wins, and we're going to get into some of this a little bit later in the episode. But I wanted to start out with a few icebreakers. These are always fun ways to get to know our guests and ease into some of the questions that we'll be talking about a little bit later. But to start off on the theme of illustration and animation, what's one of your favorite animated series, movies, or shorts?
Uh-oh, did I lose you? I lost you for a
I
little
don't
bit,
know.
but I imagine the question was, what's my favorite series or cartoon? All right, so question you're saying was, what's my favorite series or cartoon or movie
Yep.
in the animation realm? Yeah, that's a tough question to answer. There's so many. I mean, my immediate answer is The Incredibles, just because of like the impact that had on my life. I don't think I would be to go to school for computer animation, which that pathway was kind of for me to eventually work in 3D films, and work at like a Pixar, which for me to eventually work in 3D films, and work at like a Pixar, which didn't happen, which is okay, but it still kind of started that sort of journey for me, So The Incredibles still sticks with me, and I think it's still a beautiful film, and love Brad Bird. But kind of when I'm thinking about like lifelong impact and just the stuff I loved as a kid, I was a big anime nerd and manga nerd and loved Cowboy Bebop. I don't know what they did to Cowboy Bebop. I loved like Sunday strips. Calvin and
Of
Hobbes
course. I
was
mean,
a
that's
big
the
deal for
quintessential.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Calvin and Hobbes was a big deal. I used to do like Calvin and Hobbes like fan like narratives, like create these. I was a big old nerd as a kid. And Boondocks was also impactful to me because I see, Aaron Magruder, who had started this IP, this thing that now lives in so many different mediums. It lives in print. It lives in obviously the cartoon, and this is his creation. And he was a youngish guy when he started out doing it. And so that was really inspirational for me I love the strip, but I also love the story of it. And that was kind of, we talk about representation. It helped me kind of see that there's like a path as an artist, for Black creatives. So those are pretty impactful for me. But yeah, I loved all sorts of, that was my life growing up. Still kind of my life. I still watch cartoons.
Yeah. It's amazing how some of those things kind of make that lifelong impact. And yeah, I can remember the first kind of cartoon like I drew, and it was from a Marvel book. This is before like, all the Avengers stuff. It was a Scholastic book fair, and they had
I
like
remember
these
those.
how to draw like Marvel characters, and that was like my first experience kind of drawing. And then I think I started
actually know
getting
the book you're talking about. I own that book and was
it's
obsessed with that
a
book.
dope book.
It's an amazing book. I feel like it's still like essential reading if you want to be an artist and especially work in that space to grab that book. It's definitely it's foundational for sure. Absolutely. It's funny you said that. I have this book that I keep around just because of like you're saying, that impact, that foundational impact this drawing cartoons book.
Amazing.
It was one that I got from a Scholastic
book fair,
and it was like one of those books that I just kept reading and kept like, all right, this is how you draw faces. This is how you create a 3D image. This is how you make characters. So yeah, that stuff is definitely super important for sure. But yeah, I loved all sorts of cartoons
Yeah.
growing up. All of them. A lot of them weren't
I
really
mean
for
I mean,
kids, to
like,
tell you the
honestly,
truth.
if you look back at,
Like,
like, I mean,
for
obviously, we
kids.
were growing up watching Boondocks,
Yeah.
but, like, the
That ain't for
level
kids.
of satire in that, I'm like, all that went over my head when I was talking
Honestly,
about it
too,
in high
I even
school.
think about like reading the strip, like even
Yeah.
Calvin and Hobbes. Like a lot of that stuff was
Yeah.
completely over my head. But I think certain kids love that sort of content. They don't
Yeah.
want to be pandered to. They want to kind of like read something where they kind of got to figure it out and dig a little deeper and like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Mom,
All
what does
right,
this
next
mean?
question. Give us a
So
little
I
peek
love that sort of stuff
into
growing
kind
up
of
for
like
sure.
how you work. Like, what does your setup look like? I'm super curious.
Yeah. So my setup is so I have this big monitor right here that I use for kind of like previewing stuff. Right now, I'm working on a MacBook Pro. Usually, I tend to lean towards having a laptop just so I can like take my work
Yeah.
anywhere, wherever I want. And then I have this Cintiq that was, one of, I think, the best additions to my studio. I use this every day, and it's essentially just a
Hmm.
giant screen that you can draw on. And bulk of my work comes from there. But I also have, I think it's behind me. No, it's actually in another room, but I have this Wacom Mobile Studio Pro, which is like a mini Cintiq, but also a computer. So you
Yeah.
can take that wherever you want to go and use whatever
You're
apps. And then I also have
you're
an iPad
cringing.
Pro,
Like,
which
I saw
I
the
haven't
fate.
been
Like,
using as much lately
you're
for
not a big fan of
production.
drawing on the iPad.
I know. I actually think the tech is beautiful. It's
Yeah.
wonderful tech. What kills me is that I use certain apps and
Mm.
it can be limiting. Procreate's beautiful. It's amazing. And I love I get why people love it, and in some capacity I love it as well, but I'm used to using apps for animation to have like robust timeline features and all these
Mm.
things. You know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
can kind of be limiting if you're doing something larger than a GIF. You
Right.
can make it happen. People are doing like crazy work in Procreate. Like it's certainly possible, but it feels limiting to me when I think about stuff that I'm used to, like TV Paint and Clip Studio Paint. I've been using a lot,
Hmm.
and another app that is great, Toon Boom, Harmony. Like that stuff is like production animation
Right.
software. So for me, the iPad is awesome, and then also the file system. Like sometimes I'll save something and it don't get saved, and
Mm.
like you're in production, you don't have time for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it does have ability of the software that I use. In a dream world, if I could have an iPad that could run all the stuff that I want to
Right.
run, that would like be amazing. That could run all the stuff that I want to run, that would like be amazing,
Yeah.
obviously, right? Because it's this really light form factor, but which I tried a Surface Pro, but
Mm.
I don't love the pen tech.
Seems like
It's not
everyone has
iPad
like
level
bits
yet,
and pieces of
unfortunately.
things that work, but not all of it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think when it comes to pen tech, we're talking about digital art. I think Wacom and Apple are head to head.
Mm.
And then for me, Wacom just wins out because you can put Cinema 4D on it. You can put all of the apps that you use on it. You don't have to worry about kind of like completely
Work for the
rebuilding make
tool.
stuff.
And
Right, exactly.
that's also difficult, right? I mean, that's a lot of time
Absolutely.
to have to learn, and your quality of your work might go down because you're too busy trying to figure out, too busy trying to be like an IT tech on your own equipment.
For sure. And it's definitely like something I spent some time like playing around with because I would love that. I would love if I
Yeah.
could use my iPad all the time, but it's like you said, it just I don't think it's there yet app wise. But
Yeah.
people if I was just starting out and I wasn't like so like in the apps that I use right now, and more open, not that I'm not open, I'm learning new stuff every day, but like I kind of have the way that I do things established. If
Yeah.
that wasn't a thing, then I may be a person that only used an iPad, because that
Yeah.
is all I know. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's hard for me to abandon the way I do things to just do everything on the iPad. It's real hard. So I
Yeah.
love it. I hope it comes around. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they put
Yeah.
like Mac OS on the iPad, I don't think they will, but that would be
Wishful
really cool.
thinking. Wishful
For
thinking.
sure.
You've
Very
been talking
wishful
about this for
thinking.
like a decade.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
For real. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
So
need to
so
write them.
so let's kind of get into you. I want to get into you. Maybe give the
Yeah,
listeners a bit of a background about yourself, how you got started. I know we kind of talked about
sure.
that super briefly, but yeah, also kind of paint a picture of like what are some of the challenges that you had coming up, and what did it take to
Totally.
get to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, the challenges, there are a lot of challenges. It's there's kind of always going to be sort of inherent challenge when you come into a space where you're a minority, right?
Yeah.
Where it's overwhelmingly white male led, and they're not used to seeing someone like you in that space. So there's that inherent challenge, and that's kind of been something I've experienced really my entire life, honestly, because
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be an artist and I've always kind of proclaimed that I would be an artist, which
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that my family was super supportive of that. And I think that
Mm.
is a lot of the reason why I'm here too, because
Yeah.
regardless of what the world was telling me, my mom was like, Mo, you're going to be an artist. That's it.
Mm.
My sister, my dad, they were they were super supportive of me. But yeah, growing up, I had experiences where people told me I couldn't do what I'm doing, and then you enter the industry, and then you really have the same experience. So it it's kind of a lot of the reason why I established my practice, honestly,
Yeah.
because for me, there's nothing else that I want to be doing. This is it. I have
Right.
no plan B. There's
Yeah.
no alternative. This is it. So
And
for me,
you started your practice about 4 years ago, right?
yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about that. And before that, I was freelancing too, and
Mm.
my practice is really just an extension of that.
Sure.
And it came off the heels of me just not being happy with the workplace experience,
Yeah.
feeling like there's more going on here than me just needing to be good at what I do and
Right.
be someone that's
Right. Like, can I just do
dope
my
to work
thing?
with. Yeah,
Yeah.
right? Like there are things that are out of my control here and I don't have time. I just want to make
Yeah.
cool stuff and work with people who want to work with me.
Yeah.
So it kind of I just felt all of that and glass
Mm.
ceiling and just was like, hey, I can hop around between places and kind of find a place that isn't like that. 'Cause I do believe those places do exist.
Yeah.
Or, but
Mhm.
that's kind of felt like rolling the dice for me, or I can just kind of, I've always had kind of this entrepreneurial spirit. A lot of
Yeah.
that comes from my parents. My parents themselves always had businesses. And, it's growing up seeing that it helped me kind of frame like I can also have my own business, even though
Yeah.
it's not at all in the capacity of sort of work that they did. It's still kind of you need to be a business person to have a creative practice like this, and just thinking of what they did and
And
how they did it.
was that in Florida
One
where
day I
they
had a
were
conversation.
kind of doing their
Yeah, this is
thing,
in
or
Miami. Yeah, this is
yeah.
in Miami, and it's funny when I was thinking about doing it. I had this conversation with my dad, and I was just talking to him and I was like, yeah, I'm not sure if I should do this or if I should like go full time again at some place.
Right.
And he's like, Mo, but you've been doing it. You've
Hmm.
already been doing it. And he
Yeah.
was so right. I've been like moonlighting, and whenever I'd be in between gigs, I'd like freelance. So he's like, you already have the foundation. You just need to grow on
Yeah.
it. It's not as difficult as you're making it seem. You know, Going back to your sort of beginning question, of the sort of challenge, going back to your sort of beginning question of the sort of challenge, it's interesting because now operating the way that I do, there's still like clients that may not want to work with me, right? Because
Sure.
they come to my site, it's super black art. you
Right.
know,
Right.
this is who I am, and I don't try to, curb it at all. But on the flip side, I think it's put me closer to clients that don't care about that stuff or embrace it. Right. And
Right.
it's allowed me to be able to really lean into that sort of work and not have to like
Hmm.
do the stuff that maybe isn't so. close to me, or close to my heart, or I'm not as passionate about. So it's created, I think, an environment where I not only get to fully be myself, but also do work that reflects that.
Yeah.
So it was a journey though. It wasn't like I quit and that was the sort of work I was doing.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
minute, and I think that also had to do with self-discovery.
Would you
But
would you say it was more of an introspective journey than necessarily the journey behind just like starting a business?
yeah, I think it was a mixture of both,
Mm,
honestly, because there's obviously sort of the introspective stuff of like, what do I do? What's, I hate words like this, brand and all this, but I guess that's how you have to think about, your practice.
right.
Who are the sort of clients I want to be working with? And, even on like a deeper level than just like, what's my style, which was also something I was exploring, but like,
Mm,
who is this work for? Why
yeah.
me? Like all these sort of deep questions you got to ask yourself so you
Right.
don't kind of get stuck. But then there's also sort of the business stuff of like, just being a business person,
Right.
logistic stuff like what
Right.
questions to ask a client.
Right.
What's a good budget? Like the budget thing, I really feel like I've only got comfortable with like the budget question maybe like
Yeah. You mean
2
asking
years
somebody
ago,
what their budget is?
maybe? Not just asking, but also feeling informed enough where I'm like, if
That's a
they give
good
me a
call or
number,
not?
I can say, all right, that's a good number. Like,
Right.
this is why we need more. This is what we can do. Like, just maneuvering that question in general.
Yeah.
Like, it took me a minute. And, the internet isn't super helpful because it's like, what's a good budget? Don't
Oh
Google
my
that because
gosh.
that's like,
Yeah. I know. I've always, and I'd love to know where your thinking is with this, but I've always sort of, because I used to freelance myself,
Mhm.
and I always used to say the first number that you come up with is just like the cost of goods, right? Like
Yeah,
there's no profit in that first number,
for
and
sure.
you need to embrace the value that you're bringing. And so what do you put on top of that, right? And then,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
there's a lot of, obviously, even just like the upkeep of running a business. So going and seeing a general number on the internet ain't really going to help you out. It's central
No.
to your own operation, right?
Yes. And it's not considering, like you're saying, all of the sort of unique factors of all of it.
Yeah.
Like, where are you living? What's your cost of
Right.
living? What what is this project? Like, what are you connected to this work? Are you
Right.
connected to these people? Are you, for me, I realized just even just asking the budget is such a simple way of just like sometimes for a lot of creatives, you would have given them a estimate that might have been much lower than what their budget even is.
Exactly.
So that just cuts out a lot of like all of
Yeah.
that stuff for you, just asking that question, but like
Yeah.
an answer from the internet. And it's been helpful to me to just have mentors too that I can kind of an answer from the internet. And it's been helpful to me to just have mentors too that I can kind of like,
Right.
hey, this is a scenario. What is that a good budget?
Right.
Just to get
Right.
some kind of like, help with that. But now I'm like at a place where I feel just I'm grateful to be feeling uber
Yeah.
comfortable with because that sometimes would take speaking about just growth so much of my day, just like the
Right.
admin aspect of it, like figuring out what does this cost and let me Google and then I don't know and then I pull out this book and then just like this rabbit hole
Right. Right.
that I dive into. So now it's not so difficult. I kind of just like pull a number and think about it for a little bit and
Yeah.
ask them what their
Yeah.
budget is
So I
too.
want to
You
go
know,
back
I
to
usually
a
meet in the
statement
middle
that you
somewhere
made
typically.
around your style. Like, what is your
Hmm.
style and how's it evolved over time?
Sure. Yeah. What is my style? I think it's definitely reflective of my roots. I'm a Jamaican heritage and my family is I'm born and raised in Miami, but my family's Jamaican. And, just thinking about the bright colors that I saw growing up and
Mm,
my experience living in Miami and just the diversity and the people and the food and the music.
yeah,
I think that is definitely when we think about aesthetic, kind of the first thing that I'm leaning into. But I'm also like
right.
pulling from all the stuff that I loved growing up, the cartoons I loved, and like Tintin. I had this period where I was like obsessed. I didn't realize it was all coming from the same sort of lane of with French comics, just kind of the way they kind of approach the way they render stuff, the bold lines that they use. And I love that look and have been leaning into that and just kind of
Mm,
also just leaning into like how I draw as, as weird as that sounds. I think
yeah,
there's a period where I was working in motion design where, because this is, it's the industry, but there's kind of a vector quality that sometimes we lean into that is so shape driven that it just almost pulls the person who's created its fingerprint totally away from it. You know what I mean? It's
right.
almost so
Yeah,
digitally that
yeah,
you like, who made this? You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah, it's like
um,
grid lines can only go so far before
right,
it starts to feel
exactly.
machine created.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I kind of just became obsessed with just leaving, like, even when I create that sort of work, I still sketch it out, right? But
Hmm.
I kind of became obsessed with just drawing it more and leaving the way it's been drawn alone,
Yeah.
so that, and I think that helped kind of also create an aesthetic for me that, you know, people could recognize more, because it was
Yeah.
had more distinction to it,
Yeah.
it wasn't, even though all my work is digital, it still had, the inception of it was still my own creation, if that makes sense.
Like, what was the
Um,
moment that you just like you embraced it?
the moment, yeah, I think through my personal work, honestly.
Hmm.
There's a series that I did, I don't even know how long ago this is now. Just Black women that I love. Audre Lorde was one of them. Nina Simone was one of them. Flojo was another one. And I just said, like, draw the way you draw. This is a
Hmm.
personal project. Make what you want to make and do it how you want to make it. And I just was kind of inherently just leaning into that sort of style,
Yeah.
and people were like responding to it. I think also just because of the content of the work, I
Yeah.
kind of read up on all these women, even if I knew them, I wanted to kind of be familiar with them on a deeper level and kind of write in the comments or the post kind of a blurb about them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that was kind of a moment where I was kind of really leaning into my style and understanding it more and playing around with it more. But yeah, personal work, that's, I think, where you do a lot of that exploration, you
Yeah.
know, and it's important to make time for that
Yeah.
exploration.
Is that something that even now, like with your studio, you say, "Hey, I'm going to dedicate this amount of time to personal work"? Like, what does that look like for you?
High in the sky.
I imagine it's a part of just like your daily routine in some way, right?
Yeah, actually it is. Yeah, I do. I would say that's what I use the iPad for a lot is just
Mm,
like drawing for fun.
yeah.
I use it kind of like as a sketchbook to kind of explore those ideas or just like draw, not even like think about exploring anything, just draw. But it has become more difficult lately to make the space for the personal
Mm,
work because, is so much going on, so much work happening and like life happening
yeah.
that it's hard to make the space. But yeah, I was actually just talking to someone about this. That's why I had that reaction of saying like I need to like make the space very soon
Yeah.
for personal projects. I can't remember.
No, it's all good. You answered it. It's all good.
I answered.
So look, I want you to talk your shit right now. You started small studios. Is it called
Yeah,
small studios?
it's
Okay.
called.
You
It's just
started
small, just
it's just
small.
small. Just small. Studios.
I'm one of those
Okay.
people.
We'll get rid of studio.
I
It's just
chose a
small.
word and called, yeah, it's small. That's it.
It's small. Okay. I love that. You started it what, 3 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, Take us through the type of work that you do. What has the growth kind of looked like for you?
Yeah, it's been interesting. It started really out being predominantly tech clients,
Yeah.
mostly just because my network, which I'm grateful for, my network was a lot of tech folks. And when I took the leap and kind of made the announcement and shared to everyone that I was doing this, a lot of my network was my tech people. So, they
Yeah.
connected with me and I was able to do some awesome projects starting out. And then kind of, for me, I was kind of looking at it in stages. The first year, I just want to know, is this viable? Can I
Yeah.
do this and like make a living? Can this
Yeah.
work? So in that case, I'm not really saying no to a whole lot. And honestly, it wasn't like still proud of that work that I did that
Mm,
first year. And then kind of the second year was more of me kind of reevaluating like what sort of
yeah.
projects do I want to do. And I think that's why I went so hard with personal work too, to do that
Mm,
discovery. And yeah, I have been fortunate to work with, you know, all sorts of brands in tech, Apple, Google. I just did a Google Doodle that is really
amazing.
amazing, which was for me like bucket list. Like I said, like
Yeah.
maybe like 8 years ago now, which is kind of
Yeah.
blowing my mind. Like I want to do a Google Doodle in our
Yeah.
Miami
Did you did you
apartment.
did you ever work with Angelica at all in that, or?
Yeah, no, that's my homie. Yeah, that's who I
Oh
work
yeah.
with. Yeah, she's
Yeah. So
amazing.
she's on the first season.
I love it.
Small
I
world.
haven't listened to her episode. I need to listen to it. But yeah, she's awesome to work with. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was a big deal to do that. And then also in that context, I spoke about it on something else, just the power of this. Like this is a
Yeah.
Google Doodle of a black woman who herself definitely has not gotten enough shine. Tony
Hmm.
Stone, who is the first woman to play in the Negro Leagues, which is like a big deal. And
Yeah.
she was
I have
just
not
brought it.
heard that story ever. What?
Yeah, exactly. And that's how a lot of people feel. And it's
What?
not because she's not an impactful person. It's just how history plays out and the retelling of
Yeah.
history plays out sometimes.
Huh.
But I'm really glad she's getting her due now and her shine.
Yeah.
She's amazing. And just that context of like that being the person and working with Angelica, who's amazing, and me
Yeah.
being a black woman also, it was just I loved everything about it.
Powerful
But
experience.
for real, yeah, it was
Yeah.
honestly. And yeah, but working tech space, also working commercially. I'm thinking about what I can say about this project that I'm working on, if I can say anything. But it's I don't know how much I can say. Yeah, it's under
That's
NDA, but
okay. You don't
it's
have to tell us. We'll
okay.
we'll
But
wait
it's a
for it.
lot of fun, and it's children's content, which is actually for me like there's a children's book that that's in my mind and on the paper, and like in a lot of
Yeah.
senses made. So I'm really like drawn to children's content personally. So
Yeah.
this thing that I'm working on is really cool and really fun. And it's like
Amazing.
funky, it's kids content, but it's like weird and funky and
Yeah.
black and just
Yeah.
like gonna be on a huge platform. So tons of black kids are gonna see it and tons of everybody's gonna
Oh
see
my
it. So
gosh.
I'm like
This is part of why you're glowing so much, right? Like,
right, maybe, yeah, totally.
yeah. You're doing the things that that are going to have an impact, that you
Yeah,
enjoy, right? It's also challenging you as well. Like, I was going to ask you
absolutely.
about this, is like, what is it like to just like switch in a different like context like that, right? Because I
Mm,
imagine doing tech, I think I saw that you've spoken about like VR, obviously
yeah,
publications and print, like
yeah, and
children's books,
working in
like,
editorial and then
yeah, what's
commercial
it like
space.
kind of switching context for that?
Yeah, I think it's just like how my brain works, honestly.
Mm,
It's I like to do a lot of things, and I
Yeah.
don't like. I think that's also why I pivoted from when I started school and wanted to go like work at Pixar. You know,
Yeah.
there's something about that that is very like you go to that job and you're a character modeler, and
Yeah.
that's all that you do. And that's no shade to that. That's like a really hard job, and that's all you should be
Right.
focused on.
Right.
You shouldn't have the character modeler also animating, also like that's why those films as beautiful as they do.
Right.
But speaking to me as a person, I like to like be doing different things and challenging myself in that way. Like I just picked up clay. I'm starting to throw on a wheel, you know, like I just like
Mm.
to do a bunch of stuff. So I think it just speaks to how my
Yeah.
brain works, honestly. And even though they're different industries, there's still a lot of crossover in what I'm
Sure.
doing. You know, at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I'm drawing pictures for everybody.
Right.
Sometimes the pictures are animated, sometimes they're static, sometimes they're printed, sometimes they're on TV.
Yeah.
But you know, the essence of what I'm doing is the same. So I think that helps me kind of not, you know, feel too stretched thin, or like I'm
Right.
not growing in a sense because I'm split in so many different places, you know.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, look, I want to wrap up with the show. Do you have like any sort of advice or knowledge that you want to drop to the listeners before we wrap up?
Advice. Yeah, if you're starting out and doing something like this, or just working in the industry in general, I think having, yeah, it's good to have like a goal in mind, you know, and say,
Mm.
I want to do this thing, I want to work at this place. But I think what's helped me is being flexible and kind of
Yeah.
being open to discovery and trying new things and experiences. And that I think has informed me on what I don't like to do, but also what I like to do, you know, in a
Right.
way that if I were so singularly focused, I wouldn't have had that
Mm.
understanding, you know. So try different stuff out, you know, and be open to it, you know, and yeah, focus in, but don't be so keen on doing that so early on. Kind of be open
Right.
to
Right.
experiences.
And pick up those drawing books.
Yeah. How to draw faces, whatever this is called. Drawing cartoons, if this is still in circulation.
Yeah. You know, so people who are listening are not going to be able to see this, but we share a few of the same books on the bookshelf. I know you
You
can't see
got
them
Bill
all.
Trailer?
Not the Bill trailer, but I see the Ta-Nehisi Coates. I
I love
see
it.
the
W.E.B.
W.B.
Du
Du
Bois.
Bois
I love it.
book. I have that right there. So
You got good
yeah,
taste.
yeah, yeah. We got some good taste. I'm drinking my coffee. You got your plant in the background. But no, thank you so much, Monique. How can folks get in touch with you? How can they connect with you? Where can they see your work? Where are you at on the internet and in real
Yeah,
life, if
I
possible?
I need to be better at Instagram, but I am on Instagram. There at made dot by dot small. Um, and also just like email me. I respond to those when people write me. It may take me a little minute, you know, but I
Yeah.
absolutely respond to those. And my email is on my website, which is madebysmall.tv. But yeah, I'm super, you know, open when people reach out. So don't hesitate, you know, especially, you know, coming up in this industry, it can not be easy, you know, for women of color, you know. So if you connect with me in any way and want to reach out, don't hesitate.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And as always, keep doing the amazing things that you're doing, and excited to see what's coming down the pipeline. I already know it's going to be amazing. I can tell. It's
I
like
appreciate. Don't put that
you got
pressure
this
on me
like
now.
you got this look on your face. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, talk to you. Thank you.